What's up, y'all? Back again today with a very special video. So today I wanted to talk about something special, and it's not necessarily a particular topic that I have multiple facts about. This is just something that is more of a response video, and I wanted to give my perspective on it. Okay, so here goes. So I saw a commercial recently and a number of responses for that commercial for a product called Shea Moisture. Now, Shea Moisture is a product that is created for the natural hair and black people. Now, I say black because there's a number of words I could use to describe African American. I could use to describe the type of hair that this product is catered towards. But for all intents and purposes, I'm pretty sure we all know who we're speaking of when we say black people. So there's this particular type of hair associated with black people, and this is who the product Shea Moisture caters to. Now, they made a commercial recently, and you can watch it on your own, in which basically there were 4 people, 3 of which white, 1 of which seemingly biracial, and they were giving their testimonies on their struggles of having the type of hair that they have and having been hated, quote unquote, having been hated on for their hair, or their hair being hated in some form or fashion. So now this is why this particular commercial is being not necessarily boycotted, but some people are boycotting the products, and this particular commercial is having such bad reviews is because, again, this is a product that is catered towards black women, but there was a lack of representation. Okay, so we understand that there's been a lack of representation for black people before. This isn't anything new, but in this commercial there was something said that I want to expound on, because I've watched a number of response videos for it. I didn't know there was an uproar about it until someone mentioned it to me. Then I watched the response videos, and a lot of people made a lot of great commentary on it. So I don't want to give too much commentary on the commercial because you all did a great job on that. What I want to talk about is in oversight what I haven't heard anybody mention. Now, before I go into this, I want to explain to you what I call, or what many refer to as, the ideologies of white supremacy. This isn't going to be a long video. I'm going to try to keep it short, but I do have to define at least this one word for you so we could all be on the same page. The term white supremacy was something that was created not by a black man. So when a black man says something about white supremacy, you cannot get mad at the black man or anyone else. This was a term that was created by allegedly so-called white people, and this term white supremacy basically refers to an ideology or a theory or a doctrine in which so-called white people, Caucasian people, European people are superior and supreme, as the name suggests, to everyone else on the planet. Okay, and in this doctrine there is a hierarchy. Now this is something that is actually multi-leveled, and I'm not going to go into the hierarchy of white supremacy, but it is important to know that there is a hierarchy of white supremacy. It's not just white versus everybody else, although in a sense that is the case. It is still a level process, but in which the black man and woman is at the very bottom of this pyramid. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to mention before I mention this commercial. Now, with the commercial, like I said, there was 3 Caucasian or white women, and we'll mention these terms knowing that no one is actually white, but we'll mention these actual terms because everyone refers to them as that, and so this is a common understanding. So there was 3 white women and 1 seemingly biracial woman. No one with very thick or kinky or condensed or so-called nappy hair was shown in this commercial that was supposed to be catered towards people with supposedly nappy hair, quote unquote. This is why people are upset. Understandable. Now, in this commercial, if you watch it yourself, there was a white person who says that she had a certain color hair, but throughout most of her career she felt compelled to dye her hair platinum blonde. She felt compelled to dye her hair blonde. And so this was her testimony, a white woman's testimony, of feeling hair hate or hate for her hair. Okay? Now this is, to me, one of the most intriguing aspects of the ideologies of white supremacy is the hierarchy, the levels of it. Because one might think that in the ideologies of white supremacy it's just white against black or white against everyone else. When in reality, even in the white construct, there is a hierarchy. Because if you think of someone who stays in a trailer home in maybe Arkansas with maybe $100 to their name, they are not considered at the elite or the top level of this white supremacy ideology. As a matter of fact, they may be considered along the same lines as someone who is not white. Okay, they might have slight privilege over someone who is not white, but in the white superiority construct, a person who stays in a trailer home that doesn't have any money to their name, they are not at the top of this white supremacy construct. Now, when you think of the top of the white supremacy construct, most people would think, what? Blonde hair, blue eyes. Not saying that all white supremacists or people at the top of this construct have that, but this is considered by the Aryan race. You could look into Aryan theologies and Aryan ideologies. The Aryan race, quote unquote, believed that blonde hair and blue eyes was a telltale sign of the supreme people on this planet. Okay, so now when we think of blonde hair, we have to know biology. Blonde hair is something that is considered to be recessive when combined with kinky, nappy, considered dark brown or black hair. So when blonde hair is combined with hair that is not blonde, more likely than not, that hair will be overwhelmed. And as far as having a child, that child will not have the blonde hair. We also have to mention that blonde hair is not only subjugated to white people. There's a number of albinos and people of black descent, quote unquote, who have blonde hair. Okay, so going back to the Shea Moisture commercial, the thing that stuck out most to me in this commercial was not necessarily that they had mostly white people in the commercial, because again, I've seen before how things of this nature have happened, but it was more so how one of the white women said she changed her hair to blonde. Why would a white woman feel the need to change your hair to blonde and then give a testimony saying that she's felt hair hate because of her natural hair? Well, because again, there's a construct and there's a hierarchy in white supremacy. It's not just white people against black people. Although that is what it is, but that's not only what it is. We have to understand the multifaceted levels of white supremacy. So this white woman, quote unquote, is telling you that she had to change her hair from red to blonde to feel accepted or to feel less hated in the society. Okay? Now that level of oppression compared to a black person's level of oppression when it comes to hair is minuscule. However, we can't overlook the fact that she said she feels that she felt compelled to change her hair. Because again, it's giving in to the construct of white supremacy, where blonde hair and blue eyes and light skin is the epitome of beauty. And anything else that's a deviation from that is considered not beautiful. Again, black or brown would be completely opposite of this construct of beauty. This is why black people across the nation, melanated people, have felt less desirable. Now, moving forward, I've used this term as well, black, and I've used this term white. Again, I want to mention to you, and I'm going to do a video on this, but there's a gentleman that's named Blumenbach, Blumenbach, who basically made a theory in which he categorized black, white, red, brown, and yellow as different peoples, distinguished by different phenotypes and head structures and skull structures. And he conceded that the Caucasian or the European or the white race was the most superior and supreme and preferential being on this planet, and the black man or woman, or the Negro race, quote unquote, was considered to be the less desirable, most primitive, and most closest to an ape. You can look up Blumenbach's work. This is another instance of white supremacy, but it's another instance in which it tells you and shows you that the construct and the epitome of beauty and the epitome of a model citizen and a model human has always been the white man, quote unquote. Now, this is why I use words like black and white, because the black and white label were given to us by people like Blumenbach. And usually when I find out, as I did, that Blumenbach made these words like black, white, yellow, brown, and red, I usually would abandon them. But what Mr. Blumenbach did, knowingly or unknowingly did, he silently unlocked a key, a beautiful door to this enigma we call racism, because you have to understand, it was a man named Blumenbach who called us black. It was a man named Blumenbach who called you white. Now, think about the words that he used. Why would he use these words black and white? I'm sure he understood the power of language, and I'm sure he understood the meaning of the words that he used. But when you research words, then you could find the true definition and the power within. So I want you to research those two words, please, black and white. First, we're going to define black. I've done this before, but for the sake of argument, we need to do it now. Black is defined as the darkest shade, or the darkest hue, the darkest color, due to or owing to either the absence of light or the complete absorption of light. I'll say it one more time. Black in the Oxford Dictionary is defined as the darkest hue, the darkest color, the darkest shade, due to or because of either the lack of light or the complete absorption of light. So when we break down that definition, basically that means that in order for something to be deemed black, it needs to be either completely absorbed with light or completely lacking light. Now, we've heard the first definition before. We've heard that black means it doesn't have any light. If it's black, it's just completely void of any light. We've heard that since we were young. But the latter part of that definition is what I've never heard. I've never heard that black means to be completely absorbed with or completely filled with light. So that's the first thing that I wanted to mention. The second thing that I wanted to note was the definition of white. In comparison to black, white is actually defined in that same Oxford Dictionary as the image made when visible light is reflected off of a surface. So this means when visible light is reflected off of a surface onto something, that image that is made due to that reflection is called white. Okay, so these are the terms that we need to understand. If you're saying you're black, you're either saying you have no light or you're filled completely with light. If you're saying you're white, you're saying you are simply an image made due to the reflection of light. You are not saying you have any light on your own. So moving forward, the Shea Moisture commercial is very important in understanding white supremacy. Because again, it shows you that there's constructs and there's different levels in the hierarchy of white supremacy to where it's not just black against white. But then when we speak about black people particularly, black women particularly, we have to understand that yes, a number of black women are known to change their hair, particularly dye their hair and put chemicals in their hair in order to submit to or adhere to an epitome of beauty, a standard of beauty that was set forth by a white person or a European or a Caucasian person. So when a black woman puts blonde in her hair or dyes her hair blonde, we have to understand why it's so multi-layered. You, black woman, with your kinky, condensed, natural, coily hair, your nappy hair, when we understand that hair is used, when you look when you research why we have hair on our head, it is in order for insulation, to keep us cool when it's hot, and to keep us hot when it's cool. In other words, to keep us warm when it's cold. Okay? So this is why our hair is here. And it's also made to protect us from ultraviolet radiation that comes with the sun. So our hair is made for protection. Anything that's made for protection, you want it to be thick, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you want anything that's protecting you to be thick? Wouldn't you want anything that's protecting you to be burly, something that's protecting you to be strong? So you wouldn't want anything that's supposed to be protecting you to be thin. Okay? So when we're speaking about hair, very similar. If your hair is made for protection, why would you want your hair to be thin? If your hair is made for protection, why would you want to mimic a recessive gene of hair? Okay? Because the European hair is considered to be a recessive strain of hair that is thin and blonde due to a genetic mutation. So you need to know that as a black woman, is that your hair is natural. Your hair is preferential. Your hair is considered to be dominant. These are science terms. So when a black woman dyes her hair blonde, this is progressing. This is mutating. You're symbolically and literally mutating your hair into a recessive gene. Okay? All the while thinking that you're becoming more desirable because you're adhering to a construct of European beauty. Okay? This goes the same for when you put chemicals in your hair, which is even worse than dyeing your hair blonde, because dyeing your hair blonde is more symbolic. That's symbolic of changing your natural dark hue of your hair to something that is recessive. Now, if you change your hair to blonde because you know that there are albinos, or you know that the very first blonde person was a melanated being, or if you know that black people also have natural blonde hair, and so that's why you dye your hair blonde with pride, and you have knowledge of yourself, then more power to you. But the truth is that 90 to 95% of the women who the black women who dye their hair blonde do not do it because they know that black people are naturally blonde. They do it subconsciously because they think that they're adhering to a standard of beauty, but they don't realize that that standard was set forth for them. So now moving forward to chemicals in your hair, that is destroying your scalp. We know this. And then there's instances where women are wearing wigs and weaves, and I could go into it on and on and on. But the whole topic was the Shea Moisture commercial. And we have to understand that our natural hair is just that, natural. So how about we try to get back to nature? How about we try to use the things that we learn what our ancestors used to maintain their natural hair. We learn what gave it flexibility and luster. We learn about coconut oil. We learn about olive oil. We learn about shea butter. Okay? We learn about things that we can naturally concoct on our own so that we don't have to do things like buy into Shea Moisture products that don't necessarily even still stay true to what it is that we're doing. No need to even necessarily have a fit about what they're saying or if we're not represented. Let's take this opportunity to learn more about ourselves and uplift ourselves. And that way no one else can try to cater to us or sell us anything, because we have all that we need already. And with that being said, of course I don't want to take too much of your time, but please try to resonate on that. This is a message for the black woman. I love you, and stay natural, queen. Please vibrate higher.